May 4, this year, we're going to have the official launch of the implementation plan for a long term, so going to 2030 and after 2030 towards 2040 with a plan for the Black Sea. And what happened after we launched the official agenda? A dedicated call was announced to implement the first steps of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. So it was the autumn of 2019. We already had the Black Sea Connect project approved. We had the call launched. So the idea was, what could possibly go wrong? And you know what happened. First the pandemic, then the war in the Ukraine, the invasion of Russia on the Ukrainian territory, that practically transformed the Black Sea into a war zone, as it effectively is nowadays. But we got together, we go back in January 2020, and we had this call of proposals resulted in two siblings, Doors, and the other one already mentioned, which is Bridge Black Sea. So just introducing, you'll see how fast I'll go, and have this introduction of Doors. So what we tried to, oh, that's lovely. The other way around. Okay. Yeah. So what do we want to do? We have three key programs. First of all, we want to understand as much as possible about the Black Sea. Even though it seems incredible, we do not know what we don't know about the Black Sea. Research in the Black Sea has been mainly on the superficial part, in shallow waters, till the shelf break, with a huge amount of the sea, looking both at the water column, specific ecosystems, and the deeper part, almost completely unstudied. We need to understand how it connects with its rivers, Danube included, and Danube Delta, which is the reaction of its specific ecosystems in front of the combined effect of human pressures and climate change, and understand the limits of sustainability. This is why we will put in place what we call the system of systems, which is an observatory. If you want, back 4 years ago, we didn't know about the digital twin concept, but if you wanted something similar to the digital twin, bringing together data from in situ measurements, modeling, Earth observation, delivering knowledge, allowing people to understand how the Black Sea ecosystems are, which are the processes, and starting to understand its capabilities. So this is the first program. Then why do we do the knowledge? Because we want to develop a healthy and productive Black Sea. What do you need to do? We need to develop and support the Blue Growth implementation. For this, we have this Blue Growth accelerator, where we try to identify specific sectors and support them for innovation, go to the business community and support them to have the Black Sea productive, but also healthy. And then the capacity building part, the knowledge transfer and training program, which is the one dedicated to training the users of the Black Sea, raising awareness about the Black Sea and its problems, and its characteristics, and its added value to the world, and the dialogue with all the categories of stakeholders.
So Adrian, thank you. I
know.
Love your passion, but we are slightly running out of time.
Okay. So
final word is?
Yes, so the final word is thank you, everything is here. Go and follow Doors Black Sea, and you'll see the news, we'll see you updated. We'll talk about this also in Brussels after Black Sea Connect. Okay?
Thank you. So our final speaker is Hrvoje Mikulic, who's a scientific researcher at Zagreb University in Croatia and an expert on sustainable energy systems.
Okay, thank you for your nice introduction. I will be short to be on time, so thank you all for staying for my talk. I know it's a challenge to talk after a good lunch, but let me talk a little bit about the challenge that is in front of us. So okay, I can be louder if it's needed. By training, I'm a mechanical engineer. working for over 10 years in the energy system. So you may ask yourself, why am I here on the restoration of oceans and waters? So the reason is that missions, the Horizon missions are multidisciplinary. So it is on different aspects that need to be dealt, especially when we talk about the objective 3 of the mission Ocean, which is, let me help myself a little bit, carbon neutrality and circular sustainable blue economy. So therefore, we are here to discuss about the decarbonization of the Danube and Black Sea energy and transport sector. Before it was talked that it will be, it is expected that it will be for the offshore energy sector rise from 20 up to 300 gigawatts of power capacity. So that means that it will be a huge capacity that the grids will need to handle. So have this in mind. So how to enhance this integration of the renewable energy sources? So first of all, we have to come back to the Danube region. So it is a very energy dependent region. So more than 60% of the energy is imported. Why? So this is, there are different answers for this, but there are locally available renewable energy sources which represent a great potential for sustainable economic growth. So locally, we can use the renewable energy sources for new sustainable growth. So what is needed for and what has been recognized as the bottlenecks for this energy transition? So when we talk about the marine area and the use of the sea space, we need to have in mind that maritime special plans need to be in place. So this is something that is being done now, especially for the south of Europe. It has been done for the north of Europe, and there you can specify, the countries can specify in the territorial waters, in the exclusive economic zones, what are the areas for offshore renewable energy technologies, what is for the aquaculture, what is for the multiple purpose areas where it can be combination of the aquaculture and the offshore renewable energy technologies. But now we come to the next question. What about the connection of the grids? So when we are discussing about, for instance, offshore wind parks, this is being built in gigawatts. So to give you, let's say, an estimation of the size, biggest onshore wind farms are in hundreds of megawatts, and then we go to gigawatts. So it's much larger scale, and this needs to be, the electricity needs to be provided back to the grid. So we need to build the grids. The electricity needs to be provided, if we talk about the blue economy, to the green ports. So the legislation that is coming is, for instance, as an example, that ships that are in the ports, they need to be connected to the grid. Not this is...
Thank you for your invitation. I'll try to be short but essential, I hope. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Danube region stretches from the Black Forest to the Black Sea. Following the course of the river Danube, one of Europe's many pillars of houses of its inhabitants, which are stronger and more resilient. There are more than 150 million inhabitants in the Danube region, and their voices and determination will echo into the the sustainable future by the present actions which are aimed to protect and restore the marine and freshwater ecosystems. And I stress, I'm very sorry, I have a throat. And I stress the loss towards citizens because there is not a limit to reach by any governing goal if it's completed by a fair, correct, and valuable citizen engagement. The wise to develop a citizen engagement approach unlinked to the general objective to the closing the gap between the government and the citizen, allowing decision makers to reconnect with the citizen needs, priorities and values, and to the fact that people should have a say in the decisions that affect their lives. Is it important to move from passive to proactive forms of public involvement? Yes, because citizens' engagement approach will provide more mutual respect and reciprocity between citizens and their government, and it will set healthier basis for legitimate decision, better policies, competent and inclusive administrators. We all know the water, environment, and biodiversity preservation, thank you for understanding, and biodiversity preservation exceed the limits of personal interest or political discourse. It is the best opportunity to create partnerships among government, civil society, and the private sector to scale by innovative and results-driven citizen feedback systems enhanced by ICT tools at European and country levels. Danube Lighthouse participatory approaches respond to the increasing demands by the young generation to be involved in the decision-making process and the growing desire among many governments to be more inclusive and responsive to their citizens' needs. Also, sharing to the community the scientific research, discoveries, and the latest innovations in technology has provided citizens with new and unprecedented opportunities to directly engage with policymakers. Not only the citizen engagement result conduct tangible improvements in people's life, but it also triggered an improved quality of public services, greater transparencies, political support, and public ownership. What we need to do as policymakers and government representatives, we need to create institutional systems that incorporate citizen voices in decision-making processes, empty the idea that the participation will increase if participation benefits are higher than participation costs, customize the citizen engagement initiative according to the local socioeconomic, political, and cultural context. So by the year 2030, as a representative of the Romanian government, as a parent also, and as a citizen of the Danube region, I expect to lay the first bricks on the foundation of the institutionalized citizen engagement to help it become a valuable milestone of the policy process. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your words on how we engage citizens in local decision-making. So let's hear more about Bulgarian and Romanian synergies. So Julian Naidenov, the mayor of Silistra in Bulgaria, will speak, and Maria Tsankova from the Danube River Municipalities Association will translate as he goes. The floor is yours.
Уважаеми дами и господа, в качеството си на представител на местната власт в България и като председател на управителния съвет на Асоциацията на Дунавските общини, бих искал да ви благодаря за поканата да участваме в днешната конференция.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a representative of local government in Bulgaria and chairperson of the Association of Danube River Municipalities, I would like to thank you for inviting us.
Днес сме тук заедно, освен като представител на Асоциацията на Дунавските общини, като една от тях. Аз съм кмет на община Силистра и наистина ми е изключително приятно да сме заедно в днешния ден.
I represent the Association of Danube River Municipalities, but also one of the member municipalities. I'm mayor of municipality of Silistra, and I'm very pleased to be here.
Нашата асоциация е неправителствена организация с нестопанска цел на общинските власти в Дунавския регион на България, която е основана още 1992 година и по-настоящем има 34 общини членове с население над 700 000 души. Нашата мисия е да служим на общините членки и на Дунавския регион в България, да бъдем център на междуобщинското сътрудничество, също така и на макрорегионалния контекст и развитие на Дунавския регион в България.
The Association of Danube River Municipality is a non-governmental organization, a non-profit organization of local government in the Danube region in Bulgaria. This is the first regional organization of local government. It was founded in 1992, and currently it has 34 member municipalities with population of over 700,000. Our mission is to serve the member municipalities and also the Danube region in Bulgaria for the development of the region, being a focal point for intermunicipal cooperation and also cooperation with all the stakeholders, especially in cross-border and transnational context.
През 2020 година нашата асоциация публикува зелена книга за интегрирани политики и пространствено развитие на крайбрежните територии, които са на река Дунав в България, и модели за изпълнение на интегрирана пространствена политика. АДО е част от групата за осъществяване на проект за въвеждане на инфраструктура за производство на водород и на кораби и автобуси с горивни клетки, за което се работи във всяка една от общините със съдействието на Русенския университет.
In 2020, ADRM published a green paper on integrated spatial policy for the coastal areas of Danube, and currently it works on a handbook for the member municipalities for innovative and participatory models of implementation of the integrated spatial policy. ADRM is also a part of the project delivery group together with municipality of Ruse University and other municipalities for introduction of hydrogen production infrastructure and also vessels and buses with a fuel cell.
Визията за развитието на АДО до 2030 година поставя целта да се работи за отключване и реализиране на потенциала на Дунавския регион, за реализиране на инициативи за енергиен преход, декарбонизация на транспорта, опазване и възстановяване на речните екосистеми, преход към кръгова икономика.
Our vision till 2030 is to work for unlocking the potential of the Danube region in Bulgaria through energy transition, climate transition, initiatives for decarbonization of transport, preservation and restoration of the freshwater ecosystems, transition to circular economy.
Темите, по които централно се работи от нашата асоциация към момента са именно воден транспорт и по-добра свързаност по река Дунав, взаимодействие град-пристанище, декарбонизация на градовете в региона, адаптиране към климатичните промени и смекчаване изменението на климата.
Central themes in our work are waterborne transport and better connectivity across Danube, coordination, the river-city interaction, decarbonization of cities and region, adaptation to climate change adaptation and mitigation.
Разбира се, както навсякъде, при нас също има проблеми в региона, които отдавна е трябвало да бъдат решени. На първо място това е физическата свързаност с нашите партньори и приятели от Румъния, защото всички вие знаете, че по цялото поречие на българо-румънския участък на река Дунав има само 2 моста и 4 ферибота, които работят в момента. Това е нещо, което е поставено много пъти като въпрос и може би някой от вас си спомнят, че с еврокомисарката Рейн Дунав, госпожа Карла Пейс, когато Румъния беше председателстваща Европарламента, входирахме именно новата схема с 5 моста, нови моста, които трябва да бъдат изградени на българо-румънския участък.
Okay. There are lots of problems in the region which resolution is long overdue. For example, the physical connectivity between Romanians and Bulgarians across Danube. You know that on the 470-kilometer long Danube border between Bulgaria and Romania, there are only 2 bridges and 4 ferry connections. When we discussed during the Romanian presidency of the Council of the European Union, we discussed this project for 5 new bridges on the Danube.
Разбира се, има и други проблеми, с които вие сте запознати. Аз няма да ги представям всичките в този момент пред вас. По-добре е да кажем какви конкретни стъпки предприемаме, като в нашия дневен ред сме включили следните теми, по които трябва да работим заедно с всички вас. Това е на първо място декарбонизация на градовете и регионите в транспорта и в енергетиката.
Our current agenda, we're not going to cover all the problems that we have, but we're going to concentrate on our current agenda, which is first decarbonization of the cities and the region in transport and energy.
Второто, разбира се, с екосистемите и туризмът. Общините търсят сътрудничество с бизнеса и менеджерите на защитените територии за обекти и за разработване на бизнес модели, за да се използват тези обекти.
Second, this is the ecosystems and tourism. The municipalities are trying to cooperate with business and also the managers of the protected areas, protected sites, for developing new business models for capitalization of such sites.
И в заключение, АДО организира различни формати за консултации с всички страни.
Just in conclusion, we have experience in organizing different formats of cooperation with different stakeholders.
Ние сме съорганизатори за събитие за co-корекция.
We organized co-creation events.
Работиме с община Русе и с Русенския университет по въпроса за декарбонизация.
We work together with municipality of Rusa and Rusa University for decarbonization of transport.
И с Центъра за изследване на демокрацията и община Белене.
Together with the Center for Study of Democracy and municipality of Belene, we organized.
Партньори сме и разбира се по проекта Екодали.
And also ADRM is a member of the EcoDali consortium.
И в заключение бих искал да още веднъж да коментираме нещо, което е изключително важно, както за Румъния, така и за България и за всички държави, които са по поречието на река Дунав, за една голяма възможност, която за съжаление не всички ние използваме.
In conclusion, I'd like to discuss something, the big opportunity that we have, the big potential that we have. This is Danube River that we do not use enough.
Потенциал, който трябва да се запознаеме за всички възможности, които той дава, а именно реализиране на дейности и проекти по програмата Рейн-Дунав.
Okay, we have to use all the opportunities to implement projects on the Rhine-Danube.
Thank you very much.
Както бившата еврокомисарка Карла Пейс, така и настоящата Инеса Яла Сендер са изключително заинтересовани как нашите общини и как нашите държави ще продължат да работят по програмата Рейн-Дунав. Благодаря ви, извинявайте ако съм ви отучил.
Sorry, just the coordinators of the Rhine-Danube corridor at European level are very much supportive of efforts of authorities to work on investments.
Thank you, Maria. You did an excellent job there of translating so professionally. Thank you very, very much, and thank you also to the Mayor of Silistra. Well, we all know that non-governmental organizations play a really important role in engaging citizens. So Marian Paiu is going to tell us about Mare Nostrum and what they're doing with the citizens in the Romanian city of Constanta.
Thank you. I have a presentation, sorry for that. Okay, that's great. Excellencies, dear colleagues and guests, it is a pleasure for me to be here and represent the NGO sector. Thank you so much for having this opportunity. And as our facilitator was mentioning, I will do my best to present a bit the citizen engagement from the point of view of NGO sector during this session. I will not be focusing. Okay, that's good. I'll not be focusing too much on the activity of Mare Nostrum, just slightly underline the fact that it's actively been involved in marine environmental protection for Romania and the Black Sea area, and maybe that's the reason we are here as well. And for the 20 years of activity, we also engage with the other sea basins. And we see that today it's really important to engage and synergize with the other sea basins. All the projects which are coming, all the calls for proposals are underlining this. And it's important to underline something that was already mentioned 2 or 3 times. We have a really huge pool of people in the Danube and Black Sea area, 150 or 160 million people, which we can harness and engage with. As an NGO, we represent and assure the involvement of citizens by increasing responsibility, involving them in collection of data, and creating solutions or co-creating. This is a really nice concept in which we have the possibility of engaging the community and the citizens. Policies that elicit the co-production or co-creation of public services will not automatically foster trust of citizens in service delivery in and also in governments. If attention is not paid to trust-building conditions, such as considering the motivation and capability of users to co-produce. So we need to engage them and let them to feel important and that their opinions are taken in consideration, not just ask them to come, to fill some questions, and that's it. So it's really important to do that. It's likely to have the engagement of citizens if they see the advantage of doing so. Otherwise, the daily business is still present in Europe and mostly in our Eastern Europe, as we all know, stop citizens from having a more active participations in what means decision making and also involvement in projects. The concept of citizen science is the tangible reward, making participants to feel not only engaged, but also that their work is valid and valuable for the entire process. As I'm saying, the latest projects were giving this opportunity more and more to public, but I feel that we need to push even more on this. Theoretically, there is much that co-creation initiative could help attain, reach better outcomes, output, services, quality, greater efficiency, inclusiveness, and empowerment. I think empowerment is the word that we should have in mind when we are discussing about stakeholders. However, attempts to achieve all of this simultaneously undermine strategic focus. So yes, we are humans and we cannot do everything all the time. We need to take it step by step. Then we reach community engagement or engagement spectrum, which is, at least we identify 5 levels of public participation, and it's important to inform stakeholders or people, to consult them, to involve them, to collaborate, and latest to empower. Empower, again, I underline this because it's really important. Based on our strategic direction, in Mare Nostrum, I mean, we have used these levels of engagement citizen in science-related activities, for example, in collecting data of marine mammals or marine litter, and marine litter and marine mammals. Both are also descriptors in the Marine Strategic Framework Directive, and we have this big pool of people from which we can harvest support. and as well to co-create under education and public engagement. All these efforts are sustainable in time if synergies are created in the frame of projects or initiatives. And we saw already some projects presented before. And the thing that more and more we are harvesting the results of this project and engaging and synergize with them along the way. In this way, citizen engagement in finding solutions to restore and achieve the good environmental status of the seas, for example, in a continuous process, will develop the sense of belonging and self-esteem for the contribution they have. I feel that the society we are now, yet, it's not fully accepting actually the ordinary people as contributors and equally valid, but also this we need to work more. I mean, to have this understanding from the stakeholders that are ruling, or the institutes, for example, the research institutes, that people can be used, and some results of them can be used in our daily work. So with training and clear tasks, citizens can provide useful data, which otherwise would take additional time, money, and most of the time human resources, which is not always available. We know that we have a specific budget, and not always we can hire scientists or other types of employees. In our case, for example, for beach marine litter monitoring, clear protocols and supervision proved to be a winning example. And starting 25 years back, under the Coastwatch initiative, in monitoring this indicator, we are today with a fully compliant marine litter monitoring program along Romanian coast, and transfer it to other Black Sea riparian countries with the very concept of synergy within the projects like Litauter, Anemone, Chenops project, and Adrian was mentioning about DORS. So I think, again, we need to push on harvesting this and keep continuing training people in order to have good quality data collected. As closing remark, it is up to us how well all are engaging, cooperating and co-creating for the best solution to restore and achieve the good environmental status of the water system and climate neutrality. EU mission Restore Our Ocean and Waters is here to build upon. So let's not forget about this mission and about the 160 million people which can be involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne, indeed, for your work in empowering citizens and very concrete projects like litter monitoring, and indeed the importance of citizen science. And we're going to hear more about that now from Miroslav Veskovic, Professor at the Faculty of Sciences at the University of Novi Sad, Serbia, and a former scientific expert at the EU DG Joint Research Centre. Miroslav, please tell us more.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. It is my pleasure to greet you not only on my personal behalf, but also on behalf of the University of Novi Sad, university which has been engaged with the Danube strategy since 2010, but also myself and my colleagues from the University of Novi Sad have been working on the Danube issues for a long period of time. I'm very glad that my predecessors coming from the policy-making sector, but also from the NGO, emphasized a lot the importance of the citizen science, citizens engagement, mentioning several key words like co-creation, cooperation, empowering, and so on, so that I will probably focus a little bit more on other issues. Sorry. There is one slide missing in the meantime. Anyway, first of all, I would like really to mention how much engagement of citizens is part of the open science policy of the European Commission, and also how much that is important not only for the general research and innovation, but also how much important it is for the missions within Horizon Europe. Joint Research Center of the European Commission has been involved in the scientific support to the Danube strategy since 2013 in different way. And one way was to provide and establish Danube reference data and service infrastructure, which within several years gathered through different organizations, public but also private and NGOs, 10,000 data sets dealing with the Danube region and in different aspects. And those things are something which is available and shared with all the people and organizations in the region. As it was mentioned, the citizen science is important, has important aspects in empowering organization, in supporting policymakers and so on. But there are also some problems with involving citizen science in sharing the data. Sometimes volunteers are using equipment which is low cost, and that's of course because it is important to have a cost effectiveness of that approach. But that kind of equipment sometimes is not providing enough accuracy. It has a certain uncertainty in their results. And so one opportunity really would be to share and combine the data coming from the professional laboratories with sophisticated equipment together with a large number of data coming from citizen science. And then, of course, trying to normalize those things to each other and thus provide better accuracy and lower uncertainty of those results. I'm a physicist, and since 2081 I was working in the let's say sophisticated nuclear physics laboratory, measuring among other things environmental radioactivity in the Danube but also in other media as well. And so that kind of laboratory can provide good quality data, but of course in a similar way, as I mentioned, it should be shared with other organization, and normalizing those data to each other, we can provide really vast amount of data from the time, from the geographical point of view as well, and from the number of coverage of region as well. So in that sense, I strongly emphasize the importance of combining professional laboratories and professional data together with citizen science data. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And indeed, as you say, engaging citizens, empowering citizens, getting them to help you with the science is very important, but to cross-check it with other sources, I think that message was very, very clear. Let's move to Slido for our last 10 minutes to see whether there are any questions on Slido for our speakers. So there's a comment there, I think. Okay. There's a question there, Maria, perhaps you can translate, which says, are there common actions of ADRM, which is the organization that the mayor is in charge of, with any Black Sea Basin organizations?
I can answer.
Please, yes.
We've participated in different fora organized in the context of the Black Sea Basin. But we don't...
I think it should be...
Yes,
yeah.
I switched it on.
Yes, we participated when we are invited.
Oh, that was working nicely, but there's another one.
Okay, thank you. We've been invited to contribute to different fora organized by Black Sea organization in the context of Black Sea cooperations. Yes, we've participated. I see another question directed to us, which is on the restoration of the wetlands. Actually, we have cross-border project which is implemented. In this project, we've studied all the protected areas in the cross-border region, Romania, Bulgaria, and we've studied the regimes of protection, we've studied the biodiversity, so we have this database in the cross-border region, and this was the basis for a common, a joint tourism route. We've developed the protected areas tourism routes, and currently we work on a concept idea. It's not yet a project, but concept idea how to introduce innovative methods for protection of the wetlands. Again, in Bulgaria, Romania, and Croatia also. But this is a concept.
Thank you very, very much for explaining that. Marianne, there's a question there about how you collect the feedback from citizens.
Okay, it's working. Yeah, I was reading that question and I had a question about what kind of feedback you mean. But if I'm thinking just if the people to ask the feedback of their contribution, then it depends from the event. Because, for example, we have events in which we are making trainings for them with monitoring methods, for example, and at the end we have a play role in which we gather this feedback to see how they felt, was it useful for them, and if they are getting further involved, how will they feel? Then going further to the second question, oh, it was there, but not anymore, no?
Yes, this is the joy of technology.
Yeah.
It moves very fast. I remember the one about the feedback from citizens collected.
Is there?
Yeah, exactly.
But there were another one.
And let's see, there's also another one that's interesting, either for you, Marianne, or perhaps
Hope I
for the
touched-
professor. Yeah, what instruments will you use to attract synergies?
Hope I touched the answer for the first one. If not, I'm here, so please raise your hand. And then for instruments, okay, we'll keep going. Instruments we use to attract synergies. Synergies is another thing, because on synergies we are discussing about creating synergies among organizations, among projects, so that means you need to be in the loop, to be focused, to harness the social media, for example, to be present in this kind of meetings in order to keep in connection or in the loop with what is happening around you. In this way, you can share this information also with your stakeholders and all the information reaching, in the end, the citizens that we are speaking of. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the last question is most probably for Miroslav about citizen science. Is it more important than the social personal engagement?
Well, both aspects are very important. First of all, I think the social and personal engagement, as I mentioned, is an important part of open science, but also on the policy making and at the national level, at the regional level, macro-regional level as well. So those aspects are very important. On the other hand, when citizens are trying to measure something, that provides them some sort of understanding of the science, and in that sense, I really would like to stimulate and support that. Of course, one has to be aware that the expense of that kind of instrument is rather small, and the quality is different than the quality of data coming from the professional laboratories. So once again, I strongly stimulate trying really to combine those data and trying to get the best of both sets of data.
Yeah, the best of both worlds, absolutely. Yes, Maria, you'd like to say
Аз се
something?
извинявам само за една минута. Във връзка с темите, които коментираме в момента, бих поканил всички вас, които сте в тази зала, да посетите град Силистра, където може да посетите биосферния парк Сребърна, който е под егидата на ЮНЕСКО, а също така да видите това, което е направено до момента. Имаме изградени два малки плавателни съда. Един е соларкат, другия е с водородно захранване. И само миналата седмица подписахме договор за изграждане на електрически катамаран Силистра-Калараш.
In connection with the topics that we discuss here, I would like to invite everybody here to visit Silistra and to demonstrate what is done for the protection of managed reserved Srebrna, which is an UNESCO World Heritage Site. And also we have two pilot vessels, boats. One is solar, another one is hybrid, including hydrogen. And also we signed a contract for building an electric catamaran, a boat between Silistra and Kalarash that will operate between Silistra and Kalarash.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for telling us everything that's going on. Are there any more Slido questions? I think we most probably have answered all of them, unless I get a sign to say not. In that case, I would like to conclude this session and thank you to our speakers and our great translator. Thank you very, very much. If Edward is in the room, he is indeed. There he is. We would very much like to take a family photograph. So, in fact, there's no escape. When you leave the room, Edward will be there with his camera and will take a photograph of you. And then there's coffee. And then please come back for our panel discussion. We've mentioned the private sector, but we're really going to dig a little bit deeper into how do we attract finance, not only from the EU, but also from the private sector. So we'll come back at 4 o'clock. But for now, photo and tea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mentioned it earlier this morning, the Danube for All project. So in about 2 minutes, can you pitch your project and tell us about its scope and its aims?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm talking now about this project, Danube for All. As you see, it's going about restoration of the Danube River basin waters, so all about the whole Danube, about 2,600 kilometers and tributaries, to improve ecosystems and people's living from mountains to coast. A very ambitious project, actually. We just kicked off a few weeks ago, and the project started only this year, so I can tell you the process of developing, not the final outcome yet. So what is the objective of this project? Basically, what we want to do is the main output. We want to produce the first Danube, as you see, basin restoration action plan. Why this now? Because we found out that we have a lot of problems on the energy crisis on the one side with the war. We have the issue of climate change, droughts, and floods. We have the issue with transport of navigation, they cannot go through. We have also the problems with biodiversity, the dying out of the sturgeon, for example, and all that has to fit together in a way. So we have to look into this project. It's quite big, it's 8.5 million euros budget. We are a very big group of 48 partners, which maybe could be a nightmare, but it's not a nightmare because we really closely work together. And we have associated partners, of course, the key beneficiaries, the ICPDR. Birgit Vogel is with us, she spoke earlier today, so we are working for them, and we want to get a basis for the next river basin management plan.
And
I'm not
Yes.
finished yet, soon.
Please.
So what we want to do is to get, let's say, restoration attractive. How can we get it attractive? The first is we have to convince the people, to invite them to work with us. So we don't do a top-down planning process. We, the experts, we know everything. We do models, we go out, and since we know everything, that has to be done. We want to develop with the people there. We have 3 pilot sites in the Delta, in Hungary, in Austria, working with them with co-creation, co-design, real procedures how to do that. We work with citizens' science, so we have a toolbox. People can measure things, can observe how things change over time. And the second part is we want to make a business out of them. So we have included small businesses like Civita, a Romanian company. We want to calculate how many euros can he earn from restoration. So restoration should become sexy in a way. That means it should be attractive from the financial point of view. It's not a waste of money just to put it into the Danube, but it comes back. €1 of restoration, we want to know how many euros do we get back of this. And to finish off, this is the basin. We know it's very international, most international basin on the global scale. So what we have to do, we cannot restore everything with 8.5 million euros. That's not possible. We work together with stores. Adrian presented nicely before. We work together with other projects, with Thalia project, for example, with Ecotali. So these 3 projects are jointly working on this. We are focusing mainly on the constructive side of it. We want to build something there. So in 3 places we build something with machines. In 10 synergy sites we work together with other projects, like with the LIFE projects. That's what we want to do. We don't know if it works out. We are very optimistic, very enthusiastic, but that's what we want to aim for. It could be a role model then for other basins, like the Rhine Basin, the Elbe and other ones. We have to go a different way. Everything is pessimistic to finish up. If you go to the news, everyone reads the earth is dying, which is all of it is true in a way, but we have to find a way to get the young generation on board, to give them a perspective. And we think river restoration is one of the perspectives. Restoration by including energy, including transport, including the biodiversity, floods and droughts. We cannot escape. We don't do it yet, I think, in an integrative way, and that's what we want to do for this.
Thank you, Helmut. I mean, do you say you've got these 3 sites? Do you know what projects will be on those sites in the...
One of them in Austria, for example, is in a national park where we restore a wild island. We work together with the Danube Parks organization. You have many national parks there. How can you restore an island, which is not existing often, in a degrading environment? The river is eroding in many ways. The Danube is totally disturbed from the sediment budget. So we want to restore the sediment continuity. We want to restore the morphodynamics. So the riverbed is going down. It's 1 meter deeper than it used to before. And we want to reconnect the sidearm system into the floodplains. What does that mean? In a flood condition, water goes out in the floodplain. So downstream of Vienna, it is kept back the water. In Bratislava, it's lower, of course, and in Budapest. And when there's a drought condition, we recharge the groundwater because the water has more time to infiltrate. So we totally change things, keep the water in the place, keep the water in the landscape, improve the biodiversity at the same time. That's the mega job, I think, but it's an integrative restoration, not only for biodiversity, but of course in a central piece for biodiversity as well. And in Hungary, it's about growing fields, and in the Delta, Adrian, by the way, is responsible for the associated regions here, Georg Komar, so they will work on the lagoon system, how we can get more water into the lagoon system. There will be some modeling and also some construction. Close to the construction.
Thank you very, very much, Helmut, for giving us an idea about Danube for All, which is just beginning, as we saw in January. Do take a seat.
Okay.
And I will move on to Marian Tudor, Director of the Danube Delta National Institute of Research and Development, and you are heading up the 3D initiative that stands for Danube Delta Regional Decarbonisation. As I understand it, it's not currently funded by EU Horizon money, but you're looking for funds from different sources. So, Marian, tell us about what you're doing in a couple of minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you for being still here to listen what we are having to say about our projects. I have to use a few seconds of my time to introduce the context of this initiative, because actually it started as a project. It is Edaphic Bloom. That's why there are 3 posters there about this project, financed by German Federal Ministry of Environment. So implementing the the projects, the partners realized there is a need for action. And this need for action came to life as a Danube Delta and Danube floodplain decarbonization. Actually, there are missing a couple of Ds from that 3D. It's not only about Danube Delta, it's also about the Danube floodplain. So, Danube Delta 3D arose as an expert network dedicated to call for action, to find a way how to decarbonize the Danube floodplain and Danube Delta. And this was the way or the basis to build up a vision, and I will explain about the vision, and the cluster. The vision, do we have okay.
You can tell us briefly about what the vision is, please.
Yes, I will tell you. It seems you want to be very brief. I will tell you first which are the members, because this makes sense when I'm going to tell you how the vision is built on the 5 pillars. The 3D initiative members are, beyond our institute, a private company, GeoStud company, represented today by our partners, the Bucharest University of Economic Studies, the University Polytechnic of Bucharest, Manchester Metropolitan University, Comoti Research and Development Institute for Gas Turbines, an NGO, a very big and important NGO, WWF Romania, Steinbeis Europe Centrum, Asociația Ivan Pațaichin Mila 23, which is an NGO, another NGO, Fisheries Local Action Group from our area, and the BEA Consult International Limited. I was going to say in Romania. And this is built on 5 pillars, which are mobility, agriculture, energy, climate mitigation, climate change mitigation, and circular economy. What is innovative in this is to build not only on top of the nature-based solution, but also based on knowledge, so science and research. And together, private companies, research institutes, NGOs, to try together to apply for new projects, because it's a vision, and then it's like a tree without leaves, so it should be populated with projects. So by the year 2050 to reach the net zero, but earlier, much earlier, 2030, to have significant results in this matter.
Thank you very much.
I hope it was short enough.
Thank you for explaining that very clearly to us. So, one of these projects has funding, one of these projects is looking for funding. Let me bring in our 2 other speakers. Ruben Ares is the Director General of has been the Director General of Maritime Policy at the Ministry of Sea in Portugal, and is currently the Secretary General of Forum Oceana, which is a blue economy cluster that brings together companies, the public sector, NGOs, and the world of finance. He is the middleman between the private and the public sector. And we have Pierre Herwes, who also wears 2 hats. He's the CEO of BioMarine, a global network that helps industry, investors, and governments design policies and foster business opportunities and identify suitable investments. And he's also a partner at Seventure Partners, a venture capital firm that launched last year the Blue Forward Fund that invests in the blue economy. So let's just first of all look at that issue of securing EU funding. Ruben, when I contacted Pierre, because I know that you're on his board, he said that you were the world champion of securing EU funding. So I understand that also Forum Oceana is partially funded by the EU. So I wondered whether you would like to share with Helmut and Marian and the people in the room, what's the secret of your success? What tips to get a successful proposal?
Well, first of all, you know, Pierre is a good friend, and he is exaggerating a bit. First of all, thank you for the invitation to come here to this wonderful event. It's also my first time in Romania and Bucharest, and I think it will not be the last. And before I, answer your question, I will be very quick on time. There is a detail in the EU flag that we should bear in mind. The EU flag is gold over blue, so golden stars over a very deep blue. So I'm just giving this detail because we have Europe and European Union has a very profound maritime dimension that now is emerging more, and that blue economy, in fact, being developed with impact, can be effectively a game changer in the strategic autonomy of the European Union. Now the tips for EU funding. Well, for EU funding, I think, you have to have, of course, a project that delivers what, the public policy is I would say, searching for. But I think today, this is what we are pursuing at Forum Oceana, is projects that act as catalyzers for involving the private sector and that act as igniters of certain technologies, certain policies that without that public stimulus, it won't be there. It's just not doing the project for, for executing the money, but really to make something with impact. For example, like the two projects that were, presented before, they are, if they are successful, they can provide innovation ecosystems, and this is what I think what EU funding today searches more. If you look to the Horizon Europe calls, to the Cosmic calls, and even for the EU funds calls, is really to connect the dots between all the stakeholders, to do the matchmaking for the investors to find with less asymmetry the project or the deal that in other way they would have more cost in finding. For the inventor or for the innovator or for the entrepreneur to be able to dilute its risk of doing his venture by having access to public money that is able to make that pilot, that demonstrator, that gives him something of a showcase that can show to the investor how the technology works. Because an investor, a professional investor, and we have one here with us, doesn't invest in something that he doesn't understand. He has to, most of it, he has to see it to believe it. So finance projects and innovation ecosystems, like the Lighthouse Europe, that are able to provide the playground to demonstrate technologies, to experiment, to link entrepreneurs with investors, with makers. That's for our experience what EU funding can now provide in this new generation of funding.
Yeah. So it's, as you say, it's about demonstrating the technology, bringing together the investors and the public sector, and of course creating new businesses.
Exactly.
And job creation.
I don't know if we could.
I will come to that just in one moment. Helmut, I saw that you nodded your head. What plans do you have under Danube for All to create jobs as a result of the project?
We always talk a lot about green jobs. But when you really ask people, what is a green job? Sometimes you get a lot of silence, you know. Or many people think this is also a green job. In our case, we think we are on a situation now where we have these climate change issues. We've also the war in the Ukraine and so on and so forth, energy transport crisis. So what we try to do is to really come up with a list, not only a list, but also with partners that starts, for example, with navigation. We need innovation in the infrastructure of navigation. We have groins built thousands at the Danube in the 19th century. They are negatively impacting sediment transport. I don't want to go. We need innovation to find a new groin type. This means it starts at university jobs to make scale models, but it goes to consulting jobs. Someone has to plan these measures. It goes for the construction companies. Maybe they are also green jobs if they do a restoration instead of building only concrete somewhere, you know? How to restore is not so easy. It goes to tourism, for example, ecotourism. It goes also to, if we go to the national parks, we have rangers there. A lot of people live on nature now to show other people what it means. And I'm not talking about all the other companies that have to provide lunches or food or whatever to them. So I could go endless forward. I think this is important to see all these businesses from transport or energy, hydropower companies. They have a lot of issues these days on the Balkans. There's a new wave of hydropower plants to be created in order to get rid of the gas from Russia in a way, to get more independence in these areas here in Romania as well important. But we cannot do a full exploitation of the hydropower in the same way we did it in the past. You see the sturgeon over there? We don't want at the same time to get the sturgeon dying out on this planet. It's older than the shark, much older than we as humans. Without being pathetic, now to finish off, I think, it's at least my optimism, that we have to give in the new generation, the young people, not only the students, but also the businesses, a perspective by restoration, by taking this, by integrating them to create jobs. We want to prove this, and I think we can prove it. No one did it so far. But you have really to make the case there. You have to calculate this.
In your proposal, you have to make the case that you're going to, yes, create jobs and green jobs, ideally. Marian, you're looking for funding, but your institute is funded by the EU. So any tips to share to secure EU funding?
I was smiling, approving what Helmut said, because all the pillars in the 3D does involve creation of green jobs. When we are switching from traditional tourism to slow tourism, so it was first pillar, tourism, that means creation of jobs. Many people doing slow tourism, so it's a new concept for the Danube Delta. It's more than less damage to the environment. It's also creating green jobs. When we are discussing about the energy, harvesting of biomass, because renewable energy is not only sun and wind, it's also the biomass. That means new jobs, because this biomass, if it's going to be harvested, means green jobs. When we are discussing about agriculture, ecological agriculture, environmental friendly agriculture, it's also use of less pesticides, new species of plants more resilient to climate change, to drought, which means also green jobs. And finally, ecological restoration of wetlands. By the people being involved in these projects, we can put equal as the green jobs. Thank you.
So I think we've definitely understood it's about testing new technology, and it's technology that is going to create businesses and create jobs. Ruben, you have created a platform, the Hub Azul, which I understand is also funded with EU money. And that brings together the private and the public sector because they have to identify what each needs. I think we've got this video, haven't we? And that you would like to say a few words as we play it.
Exactly. To dive on that, and also to say what is, also to exemplify how the Danube can be an innovation ecosystem for an environment like ocean. Because rivers have a more controlled environment in many ways. That for testing or some technologies that then will be deployed in the ocean context, this is a very interesting ecosystem for testing and developing those technologies that then can be deployed in the ocean. Concerning the Abazoo, if it's possible to put the presentation now, but I will say go forward. So the Abazoo is so Blue Hub in English, in full English, is a project from the Recovery and Resilience Plan of the financed by the European Commission, and it has, I would say, a component dedicated to develop an innovation ecosystem for blue economy in the whole country of Portugal. It is composed of 7 innovation centers, each that are located in ports. So an innovation center that is like a startup factory. It has an area for office for startups, a prototyping area for technologies, and I would say a food court. And located in port, they have full access to the sea. If you click enter again, please, for the the ecosystem. So we are going to launch. This is a beta version of this platform. It's called the Abazoo Deal Room, and it's a digital platform that connects blue entrepreneurs with blue investors. So on this platform, you can access. So it's a project from Portugal to Europe. So it's full access to all countries. You have a free register, and we are already going to launch the platform already with more than 187 startups already certified, and we have already 900 VC investors registered in here. Clusters, universities, they can register here. You can consult, for example, for the startups and the companies and the corporates that are also in there, what are their market valuation, also who have invested in here, how much that it has invested, and also for the investment funds, it's possible to see in which companies they are investing, what the ticket of that investment is, and also the kinds of series of round of investments that they are looking for. We also, there are also here the ports that want to be the blue tech ports, the navies that are betting in the dual use tech, and a series of and clusters like for Ocean by EU Sea Basin and also by Ocean. And finally, we have a matchmaking tool. It's kind of the Tinder of blue economy, where it's possible for you to put the name of a company, of your company, and the AI engine of the system. It shows you what the list of possible, investment funds that you can match with the profile of your company. We also tested here functionality, for example, for acceleration programs and innovation ecosystems. That is the value of to have the overall value of a pipeline deal flow. We did it for the Atlantic Smart Ports Blue Acceleration Network. That's a project we co-lead with Beta E. It's another Portuguese consulting company. And it has an overall value of 200 million euros in a funded project from the European Maritime Fisheries Fund. So I think, for the Lighthouse projects, this could be, a platform to be in. And if you and any of the Lighthouse projects that are interested, please contact us, and you can have and being European funded programs, you can have a dedicated space here where you can have your ecosystem, and the investors can also see what kind of companies you have in there and what could be the value of the deal flow. So putting another thing very quickly, all the companies that are here are impact companies. So
Social impact investors.
so not social, so yes, so sustainable. Our goal is to evolve the ecosystem to align it with the EU taxonomy. So, and in order to have and to facilitate to investors, and that is also one thing that is scarce, is really to go away from blue washing and greenwashing, is really to have a credible source of information for investing. So this is all the goal that we want to achieve with this, and it's open.
It's open indeed, a present from Portugal to the European Union. And I'll ask Helmut and Marion later if you have any questions about it. Let me bring in Pierre. Pierre's is a partner in the venture capital firm Seventure. I don't know how you pronounce it. Seventure? Seventure, like Accenture, Seventure. And you are on that platform. It'd be good to get your thoughts on it. And also,
I don't know if I'm on the platform.
No, Seventure is on the platform.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
on
yeah.
the platform.
I did register, cool.
So there we are. Seventure is on the platform. So you've got two hats. You're working with this venture capital business model, and also you have the expertise in bio-marine. So tell us a little bit about your experience of the private and public sector cooperation.
I'm going to try to decipher that in very simple ways. And to explain that, so I'm an oceanographer by training. I'm also an engineer in IT and robotics, and then I studied, pharmaceutical industry. I've been the CEO of a large software company back in long time ago. Then my best experience was to immigrate into Canada, where I start, the power of failure. You learn from your mistake. In Europe, it's never an option. In Canada, in the US, learning mistake is a failure. And when you go to somebody and say, well, I'm going to raise another $2 million on a new project because I failed, the first one, say, okay, you got my attention. So what is BioMarine? BioMarine has been founded in 2007 at a time where there was no task force, and we started the blue economy. And BioMarine was the first global network. We had up to 22,000 companies around the world, 79, maybe 81 countries participating. We've been participating to different blue policy. We've been launching lots of companies. We've been helping startups, developing startups at international level. And over the 17 years, I guess, that we know, more than 900 million in deals, in terms of accelerating the blue economy. 17 years ago, I met with Isabelle de Crémou. She's a wonderful and unique woman that is managing Seventure. And she started from scratch, and now she's managing 1.1 billion in assets. And she came to me, 3 years ago and said, Pierre, I think, it's mature enough. Why don't we launch a blue fund? Another one, I was not very excited about the possibility, and say, no, let's think different. And I like the idea of having a new approach. So we sat down and we started to think about the synergies between such a network and our financial expertise. And when everybody in Europe said, well, I'm going to go to EIF trying to get 20 million, another 20 here, another 10 here, I said, no, we don't want to use European money. European money and public money should be for elderly people, education, infrastructure, but not financing the private sector. So we decided to use and combine our expertise, and we made the first closing in 2022, and we're going to be 150 million for this blue fund. It's nothing. It's going to be 20, maybe 25 investments, but we're deploying already the capital. And I'm going to take one very simple example. For years, government have been saying, well, we're going to solve, the Sargassum issue. Nobody has been doing anything. My first investment, because it's a private equity fund, and we invest from, Series A to growth stage, and I decided to invest in a very early stage company. A technology that was spun off, from DSM that can transform fresh seaweed into liquid protein and natural gas in 3 days instead of 48 days. And the project is so successful that USD is coming to us. You know, we have many people that want to put money on this to get license. And we're going to start a pilot with 2 tons a day to give enough sample, to the big industry to see how the quality is and its egg protein quality, so we can really make some impact into the nutrition and the feed sector. And the natural gas, NASA come to us, say, well, we need liquid methane. So can you do something? Say, we're working on it. It took no time. The US government say, well, last year we had 22 million tons of sargassum. It's killing the tourism. It's killing the small state island. Can you do this, Pierre? Of course we're going to do it. And so we started with the sargassum, and this year it's expected to be 70 million tons, enough to solve the world protein issue. Enough to power all the small state islands in the Caribbean, and I'm going to work with my friend Ruben on having, the US base in the Azores, to be the first pilot for the European countries to Yeah, absolutely, and Madeira. And just to finish on this, so we never use any public money. You said, well, 8 million is nothing. Give me 8 million, I'm going to leverage $80 million. So when I say it's the power of will that we need, to teach to the entrepreneurs, it's really that. You have a vision, make it happen. Whatever happens, if you fail, you're going to learn from your mistake. And this is the most important step. If you come to me and say, well, I have a dream, say, well, when do you want to realize your dream? Tomorrow, let's make it happen. 10 years, because we're going to test, and we're going to de-risk, with European money. I say, not my cup of tea. So it's really how you want to jump into this blue economy and change, the paradigm. Because I've been talking and listening about, jobs, but when you were a woman with a family of 6 kids in Mozambique, and that your only possibility to get at least $20 a day is seaweed, then they need my attention. Because the social economic impact is the most important part of the investment. And you could be an impact fund, Article 9, and still making money, and in a very good way. So what I learned, from my Canadian and US experience is that, yes, we can make money and change the world towards, the right side. And we can do this in no time. Sorry, Claire.
That's fine. I'm wanting to take some questions, but I'm also wondering about if you say you don't work with public money, but what would your advice be on attracting private sector investment?
So what we're doing in the Caribbean is very simple. We have put, 1.5 million as a seed round in this company. I went to my entire network and I have, 2,000 investors around the world that are keen to jump on this project. So we're going to start, producing, and the big companies like Nestle, Unilever, they're going to, sign us LOIs. And based on these offtakes, you can leverage depth. And this company will take license and make, their own plant. That will cost $20–50 million. But we're talking about 20,000 tons a day. So that's not something that we can afford. And I've been talking with people at the European Investment Bank, say, oh, we'll be interested, to leverage on this towards, Europe. Say, yes, but why now? It's almost too late. So what I'm interested in is really, to convince people that have money, to look at immediate potential deals. It's not tomorrow, it's not in 5 years, it's not in 10 years, it's now that we need to change that. And we were talking about the plastic and the microplastic. I had, a workshop in Monaco, as Prince Albert requested, me for last minute to organize that. We brought people from all over the world for 1 day in Monaco. There were 6 companies, they all get the funding in 1 day. because it's essentially the alchemy. How are you going to put together the right people and how they're going to interact together? So let me ask you a question.
Okay, we've got 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so,
but
and
let
I'd
me
like
ask-
to get some response from
Okay.
Helmut and Marianne. Helmut and Marianne, I'd just like to know whether you've got any questions for Ruben and Pierre, and then Pierre can ask his question to the audience.
I think let's make a deal. Let's make a deal, but maybe a different one. We are not producing something what you are talking about, but we are working with nature, and we try to advocate that we have to save this planet in a positive, economically interesting way. Because normally you see restoration as a blockage for investment. I think it's not the case, and what you work with, methane and whatever, is also saving a little bit the planet. But I think we need the private sector to invest into, for example, infrastructure solutions, new type of coin, inflatable coins. We talk about mobile, on a global scale you can implement them. Someone has to invent that, but we have not the budget from the European Union to do this analysis. If one is interested in this, we can discuss later on to invest some budget into creating some new infrastructure methods to change these things, then I think we can go forward. There's a missing link between what we do as research and what the private sector does. So there's not a strong connection. So some of the things we publish, no one is reading it. So we are measured as a scientist, as a professor, I'm measured by the Hirsch factor. You may not know the Hirsch factor. Everyone in the US and Canada knows it, but not outside of the scientific community. Maybe 10 people read it, the paper, whatever. It's too long to go there, so I think we have to find cases, at least we try to do it, to get more linkage between the research and the application.
Pierre, a quick response and then I'll go to Marianne.
I think we didn't wait for that. I'm working on a photosymbiotic worm that will be, the best candidate for regenerative life support system on Earth and in the Moon. And this type of photosymbiotic worm could be, part of the restoration ecosystem that you want to do, for the Danube. It's just, looking at your facts with a different approach, think different. And he was the man, preparing, the revolution for IT. You should do the same with your Danube, project, because this is so conventional. I'm not saying that we don't need, what you're doing, but I think that, having 8 million should be, enlightening for all the people in your project, because with 8 million, you should be able to announce that you're going to fix, the Danube issue in no time with securing and leveraging 80 million, from the private sector. Go to the oil and gas.
So you can have a discussion about that over the networking cocktail. Let's go to Marianne, and just to ask whether you've got a question to Ruben, either about his hub, his Tinder matchmaking platform that he's selling to us as a gift to Europe, or to Pierre.
I have 2 comments and 1 thought. The comments, we are playing in totally different leagues regarding the money. And probably we are, most of us, wrong because we are hunting the European Union money. Most of us and all the countries are complaining the absorption is not 100%, which from the private sector point of view is not a business. So we are not thinking our activity as a business, and we are probably wrong. Regarding the platform, I have seen this before, but yours is the highest level one. It makes sense to make the linkage between the entrepreneurs and investors. We are trying this, but very small scale in Black Sea, riverine countries in the fishing sector, private sector, Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey, Ukraine at that time. And the last thought, I understand now why you are that successful. You don't stop until you make your point. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I'm going to take a risk here because it is already time that we go to our keynote speaker. But Pierre, you had a question for the audience. Briefly.
I was wondering, how many people from the private or investment sector do we have in the room? You've got the answer. There is something wrong.
Absolutely. So there needs to be most probably not a 45-minute speed dating panel bringing the private sector and the public sector together, but longer time spent on how they work together. Ruben?
Yeah, just to very, very quickly, because, well, it is a problem, but we can fix it. And this is why I said in the beginning that you should see in a public money as seed, or like you say in the private sector, as seed money, ignition money. Exactly.
You need a microphone.
Exactly. So I think if you articulate like this, and it's possible, and the design of the public fund permits that, for example, that's what I showed you before, the Aspen project. We received 1.4 million euros from the Maritime Fisheries Fund. Everybody in our consortium said, oh, this is not enough money. It was enough. It was enough, and now we have, leverage it in the value to a 200 million euros pipeline of companies that are raising the eyebrows, where investors are raising the eyebrows. Some of those companies are already in the last bootcamp we did, are being invested. So it's a kind of, I think it's a question of synchronization and fine-tuning.
I came for the first time in Romania in 1990. It was a very difficult time. I love your country. I love your resilience. I love your energy. And I love, what you have accomplished so far. But, get on the move, because nobody is expecting you. You have to make the proof of concept by yourself. And there's a world of opportunity. Thank you, Andrea, for inviting me.
There we are. Marianne is already writing his proof of concept, and we'll make sure that they get seed money that then mushrooms into much more to restore our rivers and oceans. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much for that very, very short session. It could have been longer, I feel, and I'm sure that you have many, many questions. And there will be a networking cocktail in a moment, and you can pick their brains. But it's now my pleasure to ask Pascal Lamy, former Director General of the World Trade Organization, former EU Trade Commissioner, current coordinator of the Jacques Delors Institutes, and, of course, chair of the Mission Ocean Board, to make the closing remarks.
Well, good afternoon or evening to everybody. Let me, of course, first thank the organizers of these 2 days, starting with the Romanian authorities, environment, research. And let me also, before moving into the topic, remember, as all old members of the European Commission, that the first European Commission did not have its headquarters in Brussels. It has its headquarters in Galati. Yeah, I'm not kidding. The first headquarters of the European Commission were Galati. And that was when the European Danube Commission was created in 1856, at a time, by the way, where Romania as a country did not exist. So the European Commission is older than Romania. Of course, this had a lot to do with the Danube, and it's not surprising that what we've been hearing today has a lot to do with the Danube and the Black Sea, which is the sort of natural exit of this pan-European river. Before trying to summarize what we heard today, let me briefly recall what European missions are about. We just heard about how startups start up. Well, European missions are a European start-up. It's an experiment. It's something that did not exist before, which was born in the brain of a few people. It's an experiment that will, like all startups, either succeed or fail. It's a new thing as compared to previous European actions or program or funding in three respects, three specific characteristics to missions. First, they are about an extraordinarily ambitious systemic issue that we need to solve to ensure our future. So it's a holistic enterprise. Second, it's powered by EU funding, mainly research and innovation funding, but not only. And it's powered in a way that roughly devotes 2 or 3 more times funding than normal programs. Each of the 5 missions has roughly €1 billion between 2020 and 2030, which is probably, in the case of the ocean, hydrosphere, sea, rivers, probably 3 times the rhythm of funding before this mission was created. And finally, it's not just powered by money, but it's powered by citizen engagement. The very characteristic of missions is not that it is a program, it's not that there is EU funding, except by its volume, it's the fact that it is about connecting Europeans with one of these major endeavors. Now, how does this fit with what we've heard today, or more precisely, how does what we've heard today fit with this concept, and what does it tell us about where we are and whether or not we are in the right track in the case of this starfish mission, as we call it in the board. The official name is on this slide, ocean, waters and rivers. I think what we've heard today is roughly about the challenges of missions, but also about the opportunity in the case of this very specific mission, which today is about one of the lighthouses, which is the Danube Black Sea. The challenges are, from what we heard, twofold. One, organization, and second, citizen engagement. Organization, because the 2 words which I've heard the most often pronounced since this morning is cooperation and coordination. And this is inevitable given the very purpose of these missions, which is to encompass a very complex systemic issue, like regenerating ocean and the EU hydrosphere. This is a top-down problem, and we know that even within the EU Commission, we have a hard time grouping together the necessary commissioners, DGs, programs, funding, but it's also a bottom-up issue as many initiatives coexist without a common system that helps identifying who does what, at what time, with whom, in which region, and so on. So inevitably, this is a big challenge. The second one being that if you want to engage citizens, you cannot proceed business as usual. Engaging citizens in missions implies very decentralized, regional, local structures that build a capacity for citizens to engage. You cannot engage citizens without some sort of back office. The sort of co-creation, and we've heard a lot about co-creation, does not happen by miracle. It happens when people sit together, decide to do something, but they need some sort of support to do that. And to be frank, this back office issue was not very clear in the minds of those who invented these missions, including myself. We probably at the time did not realize how we would have to adjust the way the EU systems work in order to match the very different granulometry of actions and initiatives in the case of missions. So these are the two challenges, and we've heard a lot of that today. Now, where are the two main opportunities? The first one is in technology. Accomplishing mission 10 years ago would have been impossible. We now have, with artificial intelligence, with digital systems, a much bigger capacity to solve the problems I mentioned, and notably these coordination problems. And I will just take two examples to illustrate this. The first one is the availability now of this portfolio analysis of projects which exists in the European Commission, which is a brand new AI-based system of identifying initiatives, funding, local, thematic, structural issues. And for those of you who do not know this tool, please spend a little bit of time getting acquainted with it. It's incredibly powerful, and it provides self-organization information. The transparency you get on who does what, when, at what time, for which purpose, is in itself a big self-coordination tool, which will allow, I presume, and that's what I see in some of the lighthouses, whether it's the Atlantic, Arctic, whether it's the Baltic, whether it's this one and what we had today, or whether it's the Mediterranean, there is a formidable tech opportunity to succeed in overcoming the specific problems of mission. And the other one, and we've heard a bit of that today also, is the digital twin. We've heard about a Danube Black Sea digital twin, and I'm not surprised by this. Digital twins are, in a way, proliferating. And the reason why they are proliferating is that a lot of issues which were there 5 or 10 years ago, for instance, in aggregating data or in simulating models in order to improve them, a lot of these issues are now very easy to do at a very low cost as compared to the problems we had 5 or 10 years ago. It does not mean that collecting data is that simple, and we know that especially in our starfish mission, collecting in situ data, i.e. in water data, is much more complex than collecting space data. But this is another example of how we probably can overcome problems which we never would have been able to overcome some years ago. And the other area where we have opportunity is precisely where we have a challenge, which is citizens' engagement. Citizens' engagement, if it works, where it works, and when it works, is an incredibly powerful tool. We know that. We've tested that in the first phase of the mission with the board at the time, where we did a few experiments in Spain, in Italy, in France, in Malta, where we realized that after half an hour of interaction with local groups, whether adults or kids, the reaction was always, look, stop telling us what you want to do, please, let's discuss how I can participate and do it. So the level of the potential of engagement of people in endeavors of this kind, if you test it on the ground, is in reality much more powerful than what we believe. And this, of course, is the reason why we have to fix the small issues, the bits of the puzzle, the bits of the bottleneck, which sometimes are on the way of allowing a larger group of citizens to participate. So, and I think, again, what we've heard today is a perfect illustration of this. I think there are many reasons to believe that we can succeed. I'm not sure we will. It's in the making. It's in the working. And not everything goes fine every day. But I still believe, including because of what we had today, because of your presence here, because of your engagement, I still believe we have more chances to succeed than to fail, even if failure may not be dramatic if you are a start-upper. The EU failing as a startup is a bit more of a political problem, which is why many of us are engaged in this. And let me conclude in saying that this board, the one that now oversees the implementation of the Starfish mission, and many thanks to Ivalina and to Spiridon for being with us today. It's good to have two other members of the board showing that we really engage. Let me tell you that we will keep supporting, we will keep engaging, and we will keep pushing, even if sometimes it's pushing on the European Commission. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Pascal. Don't go away, because I've been asked by the organisers to organise a family photo. And so far I've failed. So this is the last moment. So if everybody could join us. Edward, where are you? There's Edward, who has many, many roles. This is your moment to take a picture, and I really don't want to be the only person on this stage. So could everybody please come and stand next to Pascal, the mission board members, the European Commission,